You think it's hard to save 100? That's all I tell you. That's just the beginning. The real difficulty is to become the person who can save 100. See, I've met too many people who have never saved their first 100. Zero in their entire lives. Not because their income is too low, but because their brains are too expensive. They spend like millionaires, think like poor people, and complain that fate is unfair to them. I was the same when I was young. Back in the late Great Depression, I had seen enough tragedies. People were not defeated by the market, but by their own desires. Whether a person can save 100, zero does not depend on luck, but on whether he can endure boredom. You will not become rich because you are smart. You will become rich because you do not waste money when you are bored. This is the first lesson. Those people don't realize that the first 100, there is the slowest, most painful, and most tortuous stage, because at that time you can hardly see any return. The money grows too slowly, as if it is mocking your efforts. But if you can hold back, once you cross that threshold, compound interest will start working for you like a loyal slave. I often say that letting money work for you is much more reliable than letting employees work for you. Money doesn't take sick leave, nor does it complain about overtime. But the premise is that you must have enough money first. 100. Zero is the ticket. Buffett and I have both experienced the period. Low income, few opportunities, high bills. But we have one thing: the patience for delayed gratification. We would rather buy one less steak than break the rhythm of compound interest. Smart people know how to endure. Stupid people only complain about enduring for too long. You see, 100. Zero is not wealth. It is a test of character. Those who can save it prove that they have the core ability to achieve financial freedom. Once you have passed this trial, you will find that the world has changed for you. You are no longer afraid of unemployment, inflation, or economic cycles, because you finally have the right to choose. And the right to choose is the true definition of freedom. So when young people ask me how to start investing, I just say one thing: save 100. Borrow first. 100. There is not the end. But without it, you don't even have a starting point. It's a fantasy to want to be free on a salary. Only at the moment when money makes money will the gears of life turn in your direction. Before that, you are not an investor. You're just a chip in someone else's game. Remember, the first 100. That brew is not money. It is the war between your rationality, self-minded discipline, and desire. Those who lose this war will be poor for a lifetime. People always think they lack money, but in fact they lack sobriety. You have to know that humans are born to hate delays. Every cell is shouting, "I want to be comfortable now," which is why you spend money that should have been invested. It's not that you don't understand financial management. It's that your brain hasn't learned to delay rewards. In the 1950 seconds, I first thought seriously about wealth. At that time, I discovered that the biggest difference between the poor and the rich is not income, but the ability to wait. When the poor see a little money, they want to turn it into satisfaction immediately. When the rich see a little money, they want to turn it into more money. This sounds simple, but almost no one does it. because waiting means boredom, loneliness, and even doubting life. You have to endure having nothing while others show off new cars, new clothes, and new vacations. Most people can't stand that feeling. They would rather pretend to be rich than be temporarily poor. So their bank accounts are always like bathtubs, leaking as soon as they are full. When I was young, I knew a friend who was smart and talented, and he didn't turn little, but he was always poor. Why? Because he only consumed the future and never saved the present. Every time he got paid, he would say, "I will earn more later," and then make it up. But there is no later in life, only one moonlight after another. Though when he was 50, when I was 60, I no longer had to think about money thanks to compound interest. That's the difference. Not IQ, but self minus control. You have to understand that wealth is not piled up by income, but by money that is not spent. The number 100. Vara is a wonderful psychological magic. It will make you feel for the first time that money can also work for you. Before that, you're always working hard. And after that, you start to hire money as a worker. But the road to that step is full of traps. Trap one comparison. You see others buying luxury cars, and you feel that you should also have some reward. That is not a reward. That is chronic bankruptcy. Trapped to borrowing. Credit cards make you seem rich, but in fact, they only accelerate you in the direction of poverty. Trap 3 fantasy. You think a high salary will save you, but it turns out you are just a poor person who spends more. I have seen too many people busy all their lives, earning a lot of money, but not leaving a single penny. They are sprinting on the treadmill of money, but they are always standing still. If you want to escape that fate, first turn the desire for consumption into a desire for capital. You have to stare at your 100. They are like a hunter staring at his prey. This 100, sorrow is not just a number. It is a break with your past way of life. From that moment on, you are no longer manipulated by advertisements, no longer led by the eyes of your friends. You stop to think for yourself. When you understand this, you will laugh at those who buy the latest models, because you know they are trading the future for the present, while you are trading the present for the future. This is the true meaning of the first 100. Birth, everyone has heard the story of compound interest, that few people have actually seen it work. And it's not because the math is wrong. It's because most people give up before compound interest takes effect. The first stage of compound interest is the cruelest. Almost nothing happens. You save for a year, and the numbers on the books barely change. You try to control your consumption, but in the end, your account only increases by a little after the decimal point. So you start to doubt. You wonder if this is a scam. You wonder if you should let the money move. Then you start to move around, buying and selling stocks, listening to the news, listening to the neighbors. In the end, you find that compound interest has not made you rich. Your emotions have made you poor. I've seen this script play out countless times in the 1970 seconds. Smart people are eager to be smart, always wanting to optimize the process of compounding, while foolish people are the greedy, hoping to get rich tomorrow. And the truly rich people, they just endure. Compounding is a test of patience. It rewards those who do nothing. That is its cruelest and fairest place. They have to get through that period of slow growth until the snowball is big enough, and it will roll fast. As Buffett said, life is like a snowball. The key is what's no on the long slope. But no one tells you that before the slope gets long. You have to push for a long time. Many people give up halfway. Then they go back and buy the car they deserve. That car is the grave of their compound interest. In the world of compound interest, time is a friend. Impulse is an enemy. A lesson I learned when I was young was so profound that I will never forget it. One year, I saw others making money fast on short minus term stocks, while my own investments seemed to be going nowhere. I was so itchy inside that I almost sold all my assets to chase the trend. Fortunately, I held back because I learned a lesson early on. The madness of the market will not last, but compound interest will. A few years later, those genius speculators disappeared, but my money was making itself. That's when I understood that compound interest is not to excite you. It's to reassure you. The secret of compound interest is that it requires boredom. The more bored you feel, the closer you are to wealth. Those who are excited every day as investors are often just regulars at the casino. Compound interest hates action. It likes quiet. It is a gentle bull. It will not make you rich overnight, but it will steadily feed you. Unfortunately, human nature does not like slowness. They would rather chase the next trend than patiently hold on to their long slope. So I often say, the biggest enemy of a smart person is not stupidity, but impatience. Compound interest needs time to work, and impatience can destroy it in just 1 minute. If you want to truly understand compound interest, you must understand the power of doing nothing. That is not laziness. That is wisdom. Once you have mastered this patience of inaction, you have won not just wealth, but also mentality. Because the real return of compound interest is not money, and to make you no longer anxious about money. Many people are afraid of inflation, but they are never afraid of their own stupidity. Inflation may cause you to lose 5% a year. A stupid decision can bring you back to square one in one go. I have seen too many smart people go bankrupt in my life, not because the world is cruel, but because they refuse to admit that they can also be foolish. In 1973, the stock market was like crazy. Every taxi driver was talking about stocks. The barber was recommending funds, and the bank clerk was showing off their investment portfolio. Sound familiar? At that time, people also believed that this time was different. The market crashed, and those who thought they were geniuses were shattered by reality. I remember a young man who confidently told me, "I've already made 500. Beryl, I am faster than you." I told him, just because you run fast doesn't mean you're going in the right direction. A few years later, he was gone. Getting rich quick and going bankrupt permanently are often separated by a single decision. The enemy of compound interest is not low interest rates. It's foolish behavior. You may spend 10 years saving your first 100. Undesirable, and it may evaporate in 10 days because of one seemingly smart operation. Most people don't understand that wealth grows linearly, but the cost of stupidity is exponential. When you start to believe that you will not make mistakes, the clock starts ticking. Smart people don't pursue perfection. They pursue making fewer mistakes. And fools pursue making money quickly. I'm never afraid of making money slowly. I am afraid of losing money quickly. People love to talk about return rates, but I care more about survival rates. If you lose your principal, what's the point of talking about returns? So I would rather miss 100 opportunities than be destroyed by one mistake. Some people say I'm the conservative. I say I'm not conservative. I just understand the price. Bullish investments, greedy borrowing, following trends, emotional buying and selling. These things are more dangerous than any economic crisis, because inflation won't make you lose your mind, but greed will. Do you want to know why the person who saves the first 100 borrow will change? It's not because they have more money. It's because they start to be afraid of losing. That fear is not anxiety. It's wisdom. You only know the horror of losing money easily after you have experienced the hardship of earning it. I was also impulsive when I was young, but every lesson made me calmer. Later, I learned a government gives stupidity a chance to act. You can tolerate market fluctuations, but you cannot tolerate repeating the same mistake over and over again. You can't stop inflation, and you can't control the world. But there is only one thing you can control: the frequency of your own stupidity. This sounds ordinary, but it is the secret to long modest-term wealth. Remember that wealth is not accumulated by genius. It is preserved by making fewer mistakes. Smart people want to win. Wise people just want to survive. Those that can survive for a long time will eventually win. The poor are always chasing. The rich are always waiting. This is not a matter of luck. It's a watershed in thinking. The poor chase prices. The rich wait for value. The poor chase trends. The rich wait for opportunities. The gap between these two is enough to determine the fate of a lifetime. I was also drunk when I was young. At that time, I would rush in whenever I heard that a stock was about to double. Then I learned a cruel truth: the end of chasing is always being cut. Because when you chase, you are playing by rules set by others, and they have long been prepared to let you be the one who takes over. Rich people are never drunk. They wait for prices to be lower than value. They wait for the public to lose their minds. And they wait for opportunities to fall at their feet. This kind of waiting is not laziness. It's a strategy. And poor people don't understand this. They think waiting is a waste of time. But they don't know that waiting is the process of accumulating strength. The essence of compound interest is also waiting. You have to let time work first, and you can look smart. The greatest tragedy of mankind is to fight time with anxiety. The poor are anxious, afraid of missing opportunities, so they keep moving. The more they move, the faster they lose. The rich are calm, afraid of making mistakes, so they don't move. The longer they don't move, the more stable they win. This is why the market seems chaotic in the short term. Then in the long term, it always rewards those who are too lazy to move. Waiting is the weapon of the wise. But there is a prerequisite for waiting. You must have confidence. People without money can't afford to wait. Only those with savings are qualified to be patient. That's why I say, the first 100. Lazaro is not just money. It's also a medicine for anxiety. With it, you can observe quietly when others are in a panic. When the market crashes, you don't panic. When the market rises, you are not greedy. Others are driven by passive emotions. You are driven by logic. You no longer ask whether you should buy. You ask whether the price is absurd. These are two kinds of lives. One passive, one active. The longer you wait, the more anxious others become. And the market will always transfer the money of anxious people to calm people. I've never made money in the market by speed. I make money by patience. Humans like excitement. They like pleasure. But the market doesn't care about your feelings. It only rewards those who can endure. So I say, the poor want to get rich right away. The rich want to slowly ask. This is the most unfair, and also the most fair law in the world. The poor are constantly looking for shortcuts. The rich repeatedly practice common sense. And in the end, common sense wins. Having money is not the result of being smart. It is a by-minus product of patience. When you understand this, you will no longer chase the next trend. You will start to wait for your own cycle. From that moment on, you are no longer a gambler. You have become a capitalist. Many people say they want to get freedom through making money. I have to tell you a not so pleasant fact. Freedom is not earned. The money you earn does not represent your freedom. The money you don't spend represents your choice. I've seen too many people with surprisingly high incomes, but who live as if they have been kidnapped. They buy houses, cars, face and anxiety, and then spend 10 years paying off debts, and finally become prisoners of high salaries. They think they are winners, but in fact they are just being poorer in a more expensive way. When I was young, I also thought that income was the key, but later I understood that control is the key. Control spending, control impulses, control desires, and control the mind that is influenced by the opinions of others. Money is a tool, but for most people, it has become the master. The more you are eager to show that you are rich, the less the money belongs to you. It belongs to your loan company, your credit card bills, and your vain heart. I like money, but not because it allows me to buy things, but because it gives me the right not to buy. I can refuse stupid bosses, refuse stupid cooperation, refuse stupid trends. That's what's called freedom. The poor think that freedom is to do as they please. The rich know that freedom is not having to please anyone. If you can say no to stupidity, that's real wealth. The first 100. There is not just an asset. It's your path to independence. With it, you are no longer forced. You can slow down. Think clearly. You don't have to endure binge work because of bills. And you don't have to make garbage in business because of fear. Many people ask me, Charlie, how did you have the courage to give up being a lawyer to invest when you were young? I tell them, I didn't have courage. I had savings. When you have savings, you have freedom. Freedom is not a philosophical problem. It's a cash flow problem. If you have no money in your pocket, you don't even get to choose. Everyone wants to do what they like. But the reality is, You have to buy the right to choose what you like first. How much does that cost? At least 100. Zeroth, the first 100. Zero changes you from being passive to being active. This is not a magic number. It is a psychological tipping point. You are pushed by life. After you have money, you can stop and think, this sounds small, but it is the biggest lever in life. Some people never realize in their entire lives that they are not pursuing wealth. They are fleeing from fear. They work hard to earn more. It's because they don't have the courage to admit that they have never actually controlled their lives. What money can buy back is not happiness, but autonomy. I spent decades understanding this. Freedom is not how much money you earn, but how many people you can care less about. Rich people buy back time. Smart people buy back peace of mind. And sober people buy back the freedom to refuse to be foolish. Remember this sentence. Money is not everything, but poor people don't even have the chance to say it's not everything. Money can buy many things. Oh, isn't. And dignity. The funny thing is, most people sacrifice these three things for money. I know too many people who work desperately to make money when they are young. Desperately maintain a decent appearance in middle age. And desperately buy back health and dignity in old age, which is an absurd transaction. They won the income, but lost the reason. When a person loses his reason, money becomes an explosive. It will amplify all your weaknesses: greed, vanity, jealousy, impulse. Rational people use money to make money. Foolish people use money to destroy themselves. The most important lesson I learned when I was young is that true wealth is the ability to stay calm. If you can stay rational when others are crazy, that's real skill. Being able to stay quiet when others are showing off, that's cultivation. Money can't buy reason, but reason can save money. That's why I always emphasize that character is more important than IQ. The smartest people in the market are often the most likely to go bankrupt because they believe too much that they can control everything. They take confidence as capital, and in the end, they lose even their principal. I know an investor who claimed to be able to predict the market. He was right a few times, and then he believed in his own myth. The last time, he bet his entire fortune and lost so much that he didn't even have his sanity left. He's not poor. He's crazy. That's what I'm talking about. Reason is the most expensive asset of mankind. Once you lose it, no amount of money can buy it back. As for time, that's an even crueler bill. You can still earn money if you lose it. But when time is gone, it's gone. Most people trade their youth for money, and then trade their money for health. They think this is growth, but it's actually a cycle of punishment. If you don't know how to spend time, you will never know how to spend money. I have never wasted time being jealous of others in my life, because I know that the person you seem to envy may be trading his life for the life you want. Finally, there is dignity. Money cannot buy it, but it is easy to lose it without money. Dignity is not an expensive suit or a luxury car, but the ability to see the success of others and still be neither humble nor arrogant. That kind of calmness, rationality, and dignity that is not moved by the outside world, that is true wealth. Once a young man asked me, "Charlie, how can you be as calm as you are?" I said, "When you no longer need to please anyone, you will naturally be calm. Money can't buy that kind of freedom. It can only provide you with the conditions, and you have to rely on reason to protect it." So I often say, money is just a magnifying glass. It magnifies who you are. It magnifies your weaknesses. If you are foolish, it makes you more foolish. If you are smart, it makes you more sober. But no matter how rich you are, you can't buy three things: time, reason, and dignity. These three are the real compound interest of life. Most people spend their lives chasing money, but they have never asked themselves, what am I chasing after? They say they want financial freedom, but in fact they just want to spend more money without feeling guilty. I say they want passive income, and in fact they want to be actively lazy. They think wealth is the antidote, but in fact it's just a magnifier. If you don't learn to control yourself, money will only make you greedier. The poor are poor in their pockets. The rich are poorer in their desires. This is not me preaching. This is a pattern I have seen with my own eyes. I have seen people with an annual salary of $1 million feel anxious and uneasy because they live in more expensive houses, no richer friends, and so their enough is always in someone else's wallet. Their lifestyle is always running ahead of happiness. Once you get used to better, you can never be satisfied with just right. Desire is the most expensive inflation in the market. It eats up your savings, and it also devours your reason. This is why I've always advocated that frugality is not a sign of poverty. It is a sign of freedom. Frugal people are not stingy. They are just smart enough to know that satisfaction does not come from spending money, but from control. I have seen too many people's lives collapse in my life, all because they thought that if they earned more, they could spend more. But what really gets people into trouble is never the income gap, but the expansion of desire. If you want to be rich, then first narrow the scope of what you want. The more you control, the less control money has over you. This sounds simple, but almost no one does it, because the human brain is naturally insatiable. Advertisements, social media, colleagues, and relatives are all teaching you to buy more. No one is teaching you to want less. But the truth is simple. A person who can control his desires is more powerful than a person who can control the market. Desire makes people foolish. The more you want to prove yourself, the easier it is to do foolish things. I never rely on others to define success. I don't care who is richer than me, as long as I can sleep well, laugh, and not have to pretend to be someone I'm not. That's enough. Money is not the goal. It is a magnifying glass. And desire is the fire that can light you up. And it can also burn you down. I know a friend who made millions in real estate when he was young. He could have stopped and enjoyed life. But he said, I want more. A few years later, the market crashed, and he lost everything overnight. That day he said to me, Charlie, I actually had enough a long time ago. I looked at him and said only one sentence: a person who has enough will not say, I still want more. Wealth is not how much you can buy, but how much you can let go. Many people think I am fertile, but in fact I am just too lazy to waste. too lazy to prove, too lazy to show off, and too lazy to repeat human folly. The happiest wealth is not how much you have, but how little you need. If I had to sum up my life's experience of wealth in one word, it would be patience. Not talent, not opportunity, but the kind of patience that can still and endure in the years. I have seen too many poor people, not because they don't work hard, but because they are too anxious to make money, anxious to prove themselves, and anxious to change their destiny. And as a result, they dug holes at every stage and finally fell into their own anxiety. You have to understand that wealth is never linear growth. It is more like a tree. You water it, fertilize it, and watch it for the first few years without anything happening. And then one day it suddenly grows like crazy. The problem is that most people don't live to see that day and give up before the tipping point of compound interest. And they waver before the right strategy takes root. They want to see immediate returns. So they do immediate foolish things. The rules of the game in this world are very simple. Impatient people give their money to patient people. The investors I admired most when I was young were not those that got rich overnight, but those who did nothing and still lived. It didn't seem special, but decades later, they were richer than anyone else because they understood the language of time. Time is the only thing in the world that does not deceive and that never owes debt. If you trust it, it will give you compound interest. If you rush it, it will punish you. Buffett likes to talk about the snowball law, but no one wants to listen to the part about rolling. That part is long, boring, and even makes people wonder if it's all in vain. But it is precisely the slow rolling period that determines the fate of the snowball. Most people only see how big the snowball is. No one sees how long others have been pushing it. You have to learn to accumulate in silence, to persevere when no one is cheering. When the world ignores you, you continue to be rational, continue to be frugal, and continue to think. When everyone else is in a panic and blind, your time will come. I don't believe in luck. I believe in waiting, because luck is just the result. Waiting is the process. This world will punish impatience, and it will also reward calmness. Look at those who lose everything. They all have one thing in common: they want to be fast. And those who are truly rich, they all have a kind of almost religious patience. So patient that people think they are stupid. But precisely because they are stupid, they are never swayed by the noise of the market. Patience is a strategic disguise. It makes you look ordinary until all the smart people are defeated by their own anxiety. You don't need to do too much. You just need to wait a little longer than others. This extra bit of waiting is the whole secret of compound interest. The greatest wealth in human history belongs to those who know how to be slow. Slow is the highest form of fast, because it is built on the alliance of reason, temperance, and time. So if you ask me, Charlie, where should I start? I would say start with what you can control. Start with temperance. Start with saving. And start with reason. You don't need genius. You don't need inside information. You don't need miracles. You just need to do one thing: save your first 100. Zero that will change your life. And it will change your thinking. More importantly, it will change the way you see the world. When you reach that step, you will understand what I am talking about. Money is not the goal. That the teacher who teaches you to be a smarter person, then you will no longer ask what to do next because you already know the answer. Make fewer mistakes. Be patient for the long term, and then watch time work for you. That's wisdom.